Okay, so some of you don't have the apps on your calculator that we discussed in the previous videos. So I'm going to show you another method that you can use for solving systems of equations. But this is through an app that you should definitely have on your calculator. So we're going to use this example from our notes, example 1, so I can show you how to do this. And this is a 2 by 2 system. And notice that we have 3 columns. If I look at this like a table, and 2 rows, right? I have my x's as a column, my y's as a column, and then my constants as a column. And then each equation is considered a row. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to your calculator keypad and look right here. Mine's in blue. It's above the button that says x to the power of -1, and it says matrix. So we have to use the second button to access that. So I'm going to hit second, and I'm going to hit matrix. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to edit your matrix. So I'm going to arrow over. Now see how it's highlighted on matrix A? So that's the matrix we're going to be editing. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to hit edit matrix A. And I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to state how many rows and how many columns I want. I want 2 rows and 3 columns. And I'm going to hit enter. And then it's going to come up with a matrix. Then what I'm going to do is once I tell it how many spaces I want in there and how it's organized, I'm going to enter in my coefficients. So I'm going to put in, just like before, if we were using the simultaneous equation solver, we're going to do it just like that. I'm going to come across and put in my coefficient for x, which is 2. Then my coefficient for y, which is -3, making sure you use the negative button, not the subtraction button, because that will give you an error message. Then 11 for my constant. Then 3, -2, and 9. So we want to quit out of this once we have our matrix set up and go back to the home screen. Then we're going to go back into the matrix menu, and I'm going to scroll over to math. And I'm going to come down. What we want to do is we want to do something that's called reduced row echelon form for this matrix. And so we're going to scroll down and look for RREF. This is what we're looking for right here, reduced row echelon form. Not to get confused with REF, which is row echelon form. We want the one with the double R. So I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to tell it to do matrix A, because that's the matrix that we entered all our information in. So I'm going to go back to matrix again, and I'm going to choose option A. That's our matrix. And then I'm going to close my parentheses. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to give me, on the left-hand side, it's going to have a bunch of 1s and 0s, and the 1s should be lined up as a diagonal, and that's what's called the reduced row echelon form. In the third column is where we would have our answers. So the first answer would be 1, that would be our x, and then the second answer would be our y, which is -3. So let's try this with a 3 by 3 to practice. Doing a 3 by 3. I'm going to scroll through and find one. Here's one. Okay, so we're going to go to matrix. Now we can leave this as a 2 by 3, and we can leave that up there for when we do 2 by 2 matrices, 2 equations and 2 unknowns, and we can set up matrix B as 3 by 3. And then I want to edit matrix B, so I'm going to make sure I'm on matrix B when it says edit and hit enter. And then I want to tell it I want to do 3 rows and 4 columns. And then we're going to put in all of our information. We have across, for the first equation, we have coefficients 1, 1, 1, -7. I'm going to enter that in. 1, 1, 1, and then -7. The next row, I have 1, -1, 2, -9. Then my next row, I have 1, -1, 3, -11. I don't know if you can hear that, but my husband's whistling in the background. He's singing to Ozzy Osbourne right now. It's actually kind of funny. Okay, now, once we have our matrix set up, we're going to quit out, go to the main screen, and then I'm going to go to matrix again, but this time I'm going to go to math. And I'm going to go down to reduced row echelon form. And then I want to do this is where we put all of our information this time in matrix B. So I go back to matrix and I choose matrix B. And then I close my parentheses and I hit enter. So now we're going to have more rows or more columns with ones and zeros. But again, it should be a diagonal of ones and the rest should be zeros. And then in the last column is where we should have our answer. So our x should be -5, our y should be 0, and our z should be -2. And that is because of the way we entered in our coefficients. Our first column was x, our second column was y, and our third column was z. If I switch the order, if I put z in the middle and put y on the end, then that's going to change the order of your answer. So your answer is going to show up in order of how you listed your coefficients here. So hopefully that helps if you don't have the simultaneous equation solver on your calculator. It's a little bit more complicated to do this because you got to know a little bit about matrices. But if you just follow the steps, you'll be fine.